If you like story games, if you like RPG elements.
So we got to see some behind the scenes of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, where the developers were talking a little bit about the game. They mentioned a few things that I thought will be worth discussing in today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fly School channel. I'm going to continue my coverage on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, trying my best to expose exactly what I think this game is, some of its other contemporaries within the industry, and trying to inform the community of the superhero gamers what my thoughts are and what I think Suicide Squad is going to play out to be as the game unfolds. Now, a lot of what they talked about behind the scenes actually did convey a lot of what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going to be structured as. I made some notes here. You can watch the videos to confirm these 10 main points that we're going to be talking about today. And I'm also going to be doing something where I'm comparing all these with Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Because I mentioned in my last video that the Suicide Squad game is more similar to Tom Clancy's The Division because of many different aspects, but it seems some people only would love to hear what they want to hear and are in a sense doubting that this is the case. I understand that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League looks a lot like Sunset Overdrive and maybe some Fortnite elements, but deep down within the game, there are RPG elements that I think people need to pay very close attention to, because if at any rate you're not really big on those elements, at least you know what you're getting into as the game is released. So the very first thing the developers mentioned when they were actually doing their developer showcase was that there were going to be gear sets in the game. They also mentioned that these gear sets are going to be villain themed in a sense, so you can put them on and they're going to be giving you buffs, as well as gear scores, which will basically be power level based, and when you acquire them, you're able to use them to make builds and so on and so forth. I went ahead to make sure that this is something I highlighted because Sunset Overdrive does not have this system. Neither do I know if Fortnite does. I don't know. I don't play Fortnite, so let me know in the comment section. The game that I do know that I have thousands of hours with and a YouTube channel on, by the way, I have a separate YouTube channel covering Tom Clancy's The Division since 2016, so I can sniff out a Division copycat in some manner. The Division has gear scores. This is my Division, one of my Division characters. It has a gear score in terms of the gear of level 500. There are gear score levels of level 1, and it says it here, score 500. So when I saw the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League developers talking about gear score, I was like, yo, it seems like they're trying to pull off something where each gear item is going to have specific power levels as you're going through your character building. So it makes a whole lot of sense that these mechanics are actually coming into play. Also, this particular developer right here, this lady, Helen Carr, she said at the end of this video, if you like co-op play and RPG elements, then this game is for you. The Division 2 is an RPG looter shooter. The closest example that we can actually put and say, okay, Suicide Squad is probably going to be in the middle of both games in regard to their mechanics. Moving on from this, we're going to look at, say, the next piece of the puzzle, which is what the developers talked about, which is basically classes. Now, they didn't specifically mention classes as a whole, but they did say that King Shark is a brute class of character with fast melee and heavy hitting in the way that he plays. He's a brute. So I think deep down inside in their development, they had already gone ahead to class these characters. Maybe Harley will have a lot of nimble aspects to her in terms of how she's flexible, able to traverse from one place to the other. Deadshot himself is going to have some really cool things in regard to how he works. Maybe he's going to be a very ranged focused character because he's got a sniper, so you can use him as a sniper class, and so on and so forth. The devs also mentioned the 6 weapon classes that are going to be in the game: ARs, SMGs, miniguns, shotguns, and snipers and pistols as well, which if you go to the shooter category in terms of a shooter game, the Division has these attributes. I mean, I guess that's a no-brainer. Now, I'm highlighting this because even with the Division as a whole and its own, categorization and class of weapons, you can see that there are some trends and some strands, because it's very peculiar that Marvel's Avengers went the melee combat sense, whereas Suicide Squad went the shooter sense of things. And even with the end game in mind, you can even go ahead and look at, say, things like the Division, where your character could have a specific gear score. This is my character's gear score right here, 500. If I log out and switch to a different character, you'll see that my character's gear score is now at level 40. So that character is way more advanced in the end game. So let me show you this particular character. This is my most advanced character, and my gear score is actually way more than, say, the other character that I just showed you. I think this is what they're wanting to do as well. Then they talked about weapon upgrades. They talked about weapon manufacturers, like you're going to have weapons from LexCorp, you're going to have weapons from Armortech, or I think they said GCB was one of the others. So this is going to be a theme that they're going to be playing with in regard to how they actually select, how your gear sets are. So I told people about the gear set system, just in my last video. I said, hey, guys, they're using a gear set system where each gear has a name. So this is in the Division, we call them brand sets and gear sets. We do have gear sets here as well. So this is a gear set. You're going to be seeing something like this in Suicide Squad with its own naming convention. This is the Heartbreaker gear set. This is the Eclipse Protocol gear set. This is the Foundry Bulwark gear set. In Suicide Squad game, you're going to have things that look like, say, the Bane gear set, or maybe some gear set that, kind of mimics some of his play style or whatever it is. The developer said that. You got to see it in the game. This is not going to be as simple as a game like Sunset Overdrive, where you're playing a kind of a brawler shooter of some kind, and, with cool traversal. Understand that the RPG elements are going to be highlighted in this game. Now, to what extent, I don't necessarily know, but I would love for people to be very well aware that they're going into something that will need, in a sense, for you to pay close attention to the stats on your character's weapons, on your character's gear, and so on and so forth. I think this is something that we're probably going to be taking a very close look at, because it could be that all of the stats and all of the different buffs that you can get are mainly weapon based, but they also talked about weapon customization. Weapon customization is something that you see in games like Destiny. You also have it here, and I'm using the Division because I don't play Destiny, so I'm sure Destiny is also a really close companion as well. And your weapon customization mods are also things that you have here in the Division. In Division, you basically have things like a muzzle brake adding 5% critical chance. You have like a laser pointer. You have a magazine that adds rounds. You even have magazines that add things like stability, and they don't add any extra rounds to your base amount of rounds on your on your clip, or in terms of your character. Let me show you right here. That way that these are RPG elements that they're adding even to the mods on your weapons. So you're going to go into Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League with a different paradigm. You even have weapons that have special abilities in the Division. You see, the reason I'm showing this is because a lot of people went into the Division, I remember when it came out, with the mindset that this is going to be like any other Tom Clancy game. But then they realized that, this game, you can't just necessarily one-tap an enemy all the time. In a sense, you have to build specifically or use classes that will just basically headshot an enemy if you actually do things right. So many people were turned off by that, and I don't want people to be turned off by, if they are playing Suicide Squad, that is, by these mechanics, because they didn't pay attention. I even saw a comment where somebody was telling me that, they thought Suicide Squad was like Avengers, even though when I made the whole video and provided the case that they're not the same game for, by a long stretch. And then they said, I didn't even bother watching the developer showcase to the end. If you'd watched the developer showcase to the end, you would have seen that the game has RPG elements. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Let's move on to the list and continue with this particular conversation, where the weapon manufacturers like LexCorp, Armortech, and all that, and then you have weapon upgrades. They're going to be giving continuous support. This is something that we've seen in other games as well. You see it in Destiny. You see it in The Division. You don't see it in Sunset Overdrive. The game is a one and done game. It's done. It's gone. You can also see that they're wanting to bring new characters, new weapons, new missions to the game. When I made this first comparison with The Division, I really got a lot of flack, because I think some people have an adverse reaction when you say the name The Division. But here's the thing. The Division has a lot of extra content that's been added to the game in regard to areas, missions, and even weapons. I can give you, some layout like this. This is called the Countdown area. This is an area that got added just a few months ago. This is Kinley College. This is an expedition that opens from time to time. This was added later in the game. This is the Summit. It was added later in the game. This is a Stronghold that was added later in the game. This is Coney Island. These are two missions that were actually added within a different island later down the game. I think this one is probably one of the older mission pieces. They even went ahead to add an entire city to the game, New York. So when I'm looking at Suicide Squad, I'm thinking maybe they might, take us back to Arkham, and this is going to be a really cool thing. You know what I mean? So if you're, in a sense, looking at both games and the developers are saying these things, then you have to pay very close attention, because you don't want to be thrown off. You don't want to go into the position where you're playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and when they say they're going to be adding more content, we want to ask questions. Does this mean new maps? They already said new missions, so we don't know anything about a new map. Possibly they can add new maps, they can add new areas, they can add new challenges, new bosses, but they only said they're going to add new missions and new playable characters and new skins for all it is that they're going to be doing so far in terms of their support. And then finally, like I said in the entire conversation, the battle pass they're saying is only for cosmetics, as well as you're going to be having your RPG elements and so on and so forth. Now, this battle pass thing, I don't know how they're going to structure it. In the Division, we have season passes. We've had all kinds of different cosmetics that come in the game. That have come with different seasons and different season whatever. So you can run into seasons and just do activities and follow a season track, which is basically a season reward track, where you're getting items as you're playing through, and you can look through all of that. Some of the items are skins, some are cosmetics. You can come into your menu, and you can basically, let me go ahead and show you guys here so that, people, a lot of people are very skeptic about this stuff, but I want to make you know what you're looking at. We have skins as well. Some of them come with caches that you can open up depending on the season, depending on the activity that you do. This is my second Division account on PC, by the way, so I don't really follow a lot of this stuff. You can open the loot boxes, and cha-ching, you're gonna get a cosmetic item. Let me see, reveal item. Let's look at what it is. Oh, look, I got mirror shades. Oh my gosh, goodness, I'm gonna equip them. Oh yeah, but I'm wearing a mask, so you're not gonna be able to see it. Except, let's go and see if that mask is gonna, if I get that mask out of the way, if you're gonna be able to see. There they are, the shades. Good night. I know they look so good. This is what this game is more than likely going to be pulling off, and it's nice for communities to know exactly what it is they're getting into. Now, I can understand that, it might be new for people who are not really into these kinds of video games. They can also be, in a sense, some kind of a culture shock. But know this, when you're going into this game, unless the developers put it or do it in a way where you can do away with a lot of the different RPG elements, or you don't have to worry about speccing your gear if you tweak your difficulty levels, then you can get away with it. But I see this game carrying on that front, maybe doing things like raids, adding more and more villains to, the entire story, and latching on, different aspects of the story in terms of the Suicide Squad, and making this kind of a bigger project. And it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I do understand that. But these are the mechanics and these are the systems that are going to be in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League at the time of release. These are some of the things, or if not most of the things, that were mentioned in the developer showcase at the end of the gameplay reveal. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.